I step out of the sleek black sedan onto sun-bleached marble steps overlooking the Aegean Sea, my heels clicking against polished stone as a gentle breeze carries the scent of jasmine and saltwater. Santorini spreads before me like a postcard come to life, whitewashed buildings cascading down cliffs, the azure sea stretching endlessly into the horizon. Guests draped in designer silks mingle beneath white pergolas adorned with cascading bougainvillea, their laughter tinkling like crystal glasses in the midday sun. I feel a flutter of anticipation mixed with unease. This is my husband Nikos's mother's 60th birthday celebration, and though I helped plan every detail, I still wonder if I truly belong here. The venue, Villa Artemis, is perched on a cliff in Oe, offering breathtaking panoramic views that had cost a small fortune to secure. Katerina, my mother-in-law, had insisted on nothing less than perfection for her milestone celebration. As an event planner, I saw this as both a professional challenge and a personal opportunity to finally gain acceptance from the Papadopoulos family, a prominent shipping dynasty with roots going back generations in Athens. "Elena, there you are," Nico says, intercepting me with a warm smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He guides me toward the reception area, where waiters in crisp white uniforms offer champagne flutes that sparkle like liquid diamonds. Mother has been asking about the menu cards. "Are you sure they're the right shade of blue?" She mentions something about them clashing with the table linens. I swallow my irritation. The blue matches the Aegean perfectly, just as she requested. I personally checked them against the fabric samples last week. Nikos nods distractedly, his attention already claimed by his cousin Dimitri, who approaches with a boisterous greeting and kisses on both cheeks. I stand awkwardly beside them as they launch into rapid Greek, a language I'm still struggling to master after 3 years of marriage. I catch fragments, something about a business deal and family property, before they drift away, leaving me alone again. "You must be Elena," says a voice behind me. I turn to face a tall woman with elegantly coiffed silver hair. "I'm Sophia, Katerina's sister. So you're the one who organized all this?" "Yes," I reply, relieved to be acknowledged. "It's been months of planning. I hope everything meets with your approval." Sophia surveys the venue with a critical eye. "It's certainly different from our usual family gatherings. Very modern." I'm not sure if it's a compliment or criticism. I tried to blend tradition with contemporary elements, I explain. The menu features classic Greek dishes with a slight twist. The chef is renowned for his innovative approach to traditional cuisine. She murmurs non-committally. Katerina has always preferred things the old way. But then, she wasn't given much choice in this, was she? Before I can respond, she drifts away to join a cluster of elderly relatives, leaving me with the distinct impression that my efforts are being judged and found wanting. Walking through the venue I designed, from the hand-woven rugs underfoot to the custom menus detailing a fusion of Mediterranean flavors, I am proud of my accomplishment. The central dining area features tables arranged in a semicircle, facing the breathtaking caldera view. Olive branches intertwined with white orchids form elegant centerpieces, while discreet lighting has been positioned to cast a golden glow as the sun begins its descent. "The flowers are magnificent," comments Maria, a distant cousin who has always been kinder than most. "You've done a wonderful job, especially with such specific requirements." I smile gratefully. "Thank you." Katerina was quite detailed in her preferences. "Oh, I can imagine," Maria laughs softly. She sent me 3 different shades of blue fabric to choose from for my dress. I had to send photos in various lighting to get her approval. We share a conspiratorial smile, but it fades as I catch sight of Katerina making her grand entrance. At 60, she remains striking tall and slim in an elegant blue gown that exactly matches the Grecian sky at twilight. Her salt and pepper hair is swept into an immaculate updo, her makeup flawless. Guests gravitate toward her immediately, offering kisses, gifts, and effusive birthday wishes. Nikos materializes at my side again. "Come, we should greet Mother properly." I follow him across the terrace, conscious of eyes following our progress. Katerina sees us approaching and her smile shifts almost imperceptibly, warming for her son, cooling several degrees for me. Nikos Agapi Mao, she exclaims, embracing him tightly before turning to me with considerably less enthusiasm. Elena. The venue is interesting. Happy birthday, Katerina, I say, leaning in to kiss her cheeks. She accepts the gesture stiffly. I hope everything is to your liking. The chef is about to serve the first course. We shall see, she replies, her tone non-committal. Everyone is waiting to be seated. I believe it's time. As the gathering moves toward the dining area, I feel a swell of pride mixed with apprehension. This is the moment I've worked toward, when all my planning comes together. Yet pride warps into vulnerability as I remember the whispered jokes I endured when announcing I'd organized the celebration. Yanis, Nikos's best friend, had laughed outright. You? Planning Katerina's party? That's like asking a tourist to restore the Parthenon. Still, I cling to the belief that today, at least, my efforts will be acknowledged. As guests exclaim over the beauty of the setting and the elegance of the tables, I allow myself a moment of optimism. Perhaps this is the day I finally become more than just the American wife who somehow snagged the heir to the Papadopoulos fortune. Perhaps today I'll truly become part of the family. My heart lurches as I scan the semicircle of seating and realize there is no chair reserved for me. The table arrangement I had so carefully designed, a horseshoe configuration facing the magnificent Aegean view, now seems like a cruel joke. Each upholstered seat bears a small name card in elegant calligraphy, Katerina at the center, flanked by Nikos and his brother Stavros, with aunts, uncles, and cousins arranged in order of familial importance. I spot even distant relatives like second cousins Irene and Petros, whom Katerina sees perhaps once every few years. Yet nowhere do I see my name, Elena Papadopoulos, the woman who spent 6 months planning this very celebration. I stand frozen at the edge of the gathering, watching as family members find their designated places. Conversations flow around me in a mixture of Greek and English, punctuated by laughter and the gentle clink of silverware against fine china. The waiters begin to pour the first wine selection, a crisp Assyrtiko from a local Santorini vineyard that I personally selected to complement the seafood appetizers. Nikos, I whisper, touching his arm as he guides his mother to her seat of honor. There's no place for me. He glances around distractedly, as if my words are merely an inconvenience rather than a glaring insult. Just give me a moment, Elena. Katerina catches our exchange and arches a perfectly shaped eyebrow. Is there a problem? Her voice carries just enough to draw attention from those nearby. Several conversations pause as heads turn in our direction. It seems we're missing a chair for Elena, Nikos explains, scanning the table arrangement with growing awareness of the situation. Oh! Katerina's surprise feels rehearsed, her eyes glittering with something that might be amusement. But surely the event planner would have arranged the correct number of seats? The implication hangs in the air that I've somehow failed at my own job, that this embarrassment is of my own making. I feel heat rising in my cheeks as more eyes turn toward us. The seating chart was finalized 3 days ago, I say carefully, aware of the growing audience. I submitted it to your assistant, Talia, as requested. There were 31 guests, including myself. Talia, a rail-thin woman in her 40s who has worked for Katerina for over a decade, suddenly seems intensely interested in adjusting the floral centerpiece. Her silence speaks volumes. Well, mistakes happen, Katerina sighs dramatically. Perhaps in America, such oversights are acceptable. Before I can respond, Nikos chuckles loudly, slapping his knee as he announces, "It seems we forgot your chair, ha ha ha." His tone is light, but the undertone cuts deeper than any sharp word could. A chorus of polite laughter rises around me, punctuating my humiliation with echoes that bounce off marble columns and reverberate in my chest. Yanis, Nikos's childhood friend, adds fuel to the fire. Maybe Elena can just perch on Nikos's lap for dinner, like back in university days. This generates more laughter, coarser this time. I stand rigid, feeling as though I've been stripped naked in front of these polished strangers who call themselves family. The beautiful venue I created, with its twinkling lights now beginning to glow as the sun lowers toward the horizon, suddenly feels like an elaborate stage set for my humiliation. "I'll have a chair brought immediately, Kyria," says Andreas, the head waiter, appearing at my side with genuine concern in his eyes. He alone seems to recognize the deliberate slight for what it is. "Don't trouble yourself, Andreas," Katerina interjects smoothly. "I'm sure we can squeeze Elena in somewhere. Perhaps at the end, next to young Christos." She gestures toward her 12-year-old grandnephew, seated at the furthest point from the center. My breath catches and hot flush rises in my throat as I realize how clearly I'm being dismissed, not as an honored guest, not even as a mere afterthought, but as someone who doesn't merit the simplest courtesy. In that moment, the glimmering celebration transforms into a gauntlet of exclusion. "Elena planned this whole party," Maria protests softly, but her voice is drowned out by Stavros loudly declaring that the wine selection is surprisingly adequate and demanding a fresh pour. I look at Nikos, waiting for him to defend me, to insist that his wife deserves better treatment. Instead, he gives me an apologetic shrug, as if to say, "What can you do? It's Mother's birthday." His loyalty, as always, has a clear hierarchy, and I am not at the top. "Actually," continues Katerina, now fully enjoying herself, "perhaps Elena would prefer to oversee the kitchen service? As the organizer, I'm sure she wants everything to be perfect." She smiles with glacial politeness. "That would be most helpful, wouldn't it?" The suggestion that I should essentially wait on them rather than join them silences even the most oblivious guests. Aunt Sophia looks uncomfortable, exchanging glances with Maria. Cousin Dmitri suddenly finds his napkin fascinating. Only Yanis and a few of Katerina's closest friends seem amused, exchanging knowing looks that say this outcome was inevitable. I feel the weight of 3 years of similar slights pressing down on me, the accidental exclusion from family photos, the conversations that switch to rapid Greek when I enter a room, the constant questioning of my motives for marrying Nikos. Each incident alone could be dismissed as a misunderstanding, but together they form an undeniable pattern of rejection. "I spent 6 months ensuring this day would be perfect for you, Katerina," I say, my voice surprisingly steady despite the emotion churning inside me. "I selected this venue, designed the menu, chosen every flower, napkin, and candle to your exact specifications. And we're all very grateful," she replies with a dismissive wave of her bejeweled hand. "Now, shall we begin?" The chef is waiting to serve the first course. As if on cue, the waiters appear with trays of delicate seafood appetizers, seared scallops with lemon and dill, served on hand-painted Greek ceramic plates that took weeks to source. The presentation is flawless, exactly as I had envisioned. In any other circumstance, I would feel a surge of professional pride. Instead, I stand at the edge of the gathering, acutely aware of my position as an outsider looking in. The family forms a perfect tableau of Greek aristocracy, the women elegant in flowing dresses, the men distinguished in linen suits, all bathed in the golden light of sunset over Santorini. It's a scene from a glossy travel magazine, and I am the smudge that doesn't belong. A waiter approaches with a chair, looking uncertainly between me and Katerina. "Where would you like this placed, Kyria?" he asks me respectfully. All eyes turn to me again, waiting for my reaction. Will I accept the insult and squeeze in at the children's end? Will I retreat to the kitchen as Katerina suggested? Or will I make a scene and confirm their suspicions that I lack the breeding and refinement expected of a Papadopoulos wife? Looking around, I see not just the missing chair, but the space that has always been denied me in this family, a place of respect, of belonging. 3 years of trying to fit in, of learning the language, of adapting to their customs, and still I remain the outsider, the American interloper who stole Nikos away from the Greek heiresses they had lined up for him. The realization strikes me with painful clarity. No chair could ever bridge this gap. No amount of perfect planning or gracious accommodation will ever make them accept me as one of their own. I lift my chin, steadying my voice against the tremor threatening to betray my composure. The waiter still stands awkwardly beside me, chair in hand, awaiting direction. In the gleaming semicircle before me, 30 faces stare with expressions ranging from amusement to discomfort to outright satisfaction. Since I'm not considered part of the family, I say, each word measured and clear, "I'm leaving." The room goes silent, broken only by the distant hum of the sea, and I feel the weight of every gaze shifting onto me, as though my declaration has fractured the air itself. Katerina's painted lips curve into a small, satisfied smile that she quickly masks with concern. Elena, don't be so dramatic. It's merely a seating arrangement. No, I reply with newfound clarity. It's merely the last in a long line of deliberate exclusions. In that charged pause, I see confusion flicker in Nikos's eyes, followed swiftly by embarrassment, then amusement, as if my dignity is somehow comical. Come on, Elena, he says with an uncomfortable laugh. It's Mother's birthday. Just sit with Christos. He likes you. I look at my husband of 3 years, really look at him, and wonder how I've never truly seen him before. The handsome face that charmed me in a New York gallery opening, the eloquent voice that proposed on a moonlit beach in Mykonos, they belong to a stranger who has never once stood up for me against his family's subtle cruelties. I designed this entire celebration, Nikos. I ordered the flowers from Holland because your mother insisted Greek blooms weren't good enough. I interviewed 14 chefs before finding one who could prepare her favorite moussaka, exactly like her grandmother's. I selected a wine from the exact vineyard where your parents had their first date. My voice remains steady, though my hands have begun to tremble slightly. And in return, I don't even merit a seat at the table. Maria reaches across to touch Katerina's arm. This is wrong, Thea. Elena has worked so hard. Please, Katerina interrupts with an imperial wave. Let's not make a spectacle. Elena, either join us or don't, but this theatrical display is inappropriate. Yanis snickers behind his napkin, and several others follow suit. Their reaction ignites something in me, a spark of defiance that has been smothered by years of trying to please these people. You know what's inappropriate? I ask, loud enough for everyone to hear. Treating the person who made all this possible like she's invisible. But I'm not invisible anymore. I swallow the sting of betrayal and walk away, each step deliberate, refusing to give them the satisfaction of watching me falter. Behind me, I hear Stavros murmur, "Americans are so emotional," followed by scattered chuckles. The click of my heels becomes a metronome of resolve as I exit the dining area. I pass Andreas, who gives me a look of genuine sympathy. "Kyria Elena," he says quietly. "I am sorry. This was not right." "Thank you, Andreas." I manage a small smile. "Please ensure the service continues smoothly. The guests shouldn't suffer because of this situation." He nods respectfully. "Of course. And you?" I need some air, I tell him, though what I really need is escape from the beautiful prison I've unknowingly built around myself. As I walk through the reception area toward the exit, I hear the dining service resume. Glasses clink, conversation flows, laughter erupts. The party continues without missing a beat, as if my departure is nothing more than a minor disturbance quickly forgotten. The realization should hurt, but instead, it feels liberating. For 3 years, I've desperately tried to matter to these people, to earn a place in their closed ranks. Now I understand the futility of that effort. Outside, sunlight pours over me like liquid gold, illuminating the tears I blink away before they spill. Santorini spreads before me in breathtaking beauty, white buildings cascading down black volcanic cliffs, the deep blue sea stretching to the horizon. The landscape that once seemed like a fairy tale setting for my marriage now feels like an alien world where I will never truly belong. My chest tightens with both sorrow and exhilaration. Sorrow for being so easily dismissed, exhilaration at reclaiming my agency. I know I've crossed a line, but I also know I'm finally drawing one. A group of tourists passes by, cameras clicking as they capture the postcard perfect view. They seem so carefree, unburdened by the invisible weights of family expectations and social hierarchies. One of them, a young woman, smiles at me in passing, a simple human acknowledgement that feels more genuine than any interaction I've had with the Papadopoulos clan today. I find myself walking along the cliff path away from Villa Artemis. The afternoon heat wraps around me like a blanket, but I welcome its embrace. My phone buzzes in my clutch, probably Nikos, finally realizing he should at least pretend to care about my abrupt departure. I ignore it. Instead, I focus on the physical sensations around me, the warm stone beneath my feet, the salt in the air, the distant sound of music from a taverna below. These simple, authentic experiences ground me in a way that 3 years of striving for acceptance never could. I reach a small lookout point and pause to catch my breath. From here, I can see Villa Artemis in the distance, a gleaming white structure perched on the cliff like a crown jewel. Inside those walls, Katerina is holding court, receiving birthday wishes and gifts, while Nico circulates among guests, probably explaining away my absence with some convenient lie. She had a headache, I can almost hear him say. You know how sensitive Americans can be to the Mediterranean sun. The thought brings a bitter smile to my lips. How easily they will erase me from the narrative, how quickly they will rewrite the story to preserve their perfect facade. My phone buzzes again, persistently. This time, I glance at the screen. Not Nikos, but Macaulay's, the owner of the event planning company I partnered with to secure Villa Artemis. I answer, curious. Elena, is everything all right? Macaulay sounds concerned. Andreas just called me. He said there was some unpleasantness. I laugh softly, the sound surprising even myself. That's one way to put it. Don't worry, Macaulay's. The event will continue as planned. I've just stepped out for some air. He mentioned something about a seating arrangement? Macaulay's tone is careful, professional. There wasn't one for me, I reply simply. Apparently, planning the perfect birthday celebration doesn't earn you a place at the table. Macaulay's is silent for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice has changed, warmer, more personal. Elena, I've worked with the Papadopoulos family before. They are traditional, set in their ways. But what happened today? It's inexcusable. His validation, from someone who understands the situation, who knows the players involved, breaks something loose inside me. Tears I've been holding back spill freely now. Thank you, I managed to say. That means more than you know. What would you like me to do? He asks. Should I speak with Mrs. Papadopoulos? With your husband? The question makes me pause. What do I want? For 3 years, what I've wanted was acceptance, to be embraced by Nikos's family, to belong in their world. Now, standing alone on this cliff with the wind in my hair and salt on my lips, I realize what I truly want is something entirely different. No, I say, my voice stronger now. Don't say anything. In fact, I have another idea entirely. As I explain my plan to Macaulay's, I feel a shift within me, from victim to architect of my own destiny. His initial surprise gives way to a grudging admiration. It's within your rights, he says when I finish. Everything is in your name, after all. But are you sure, Elena? This will burn bridges that can never be rebuilt. I look out at the vast blue expanse of the Aegean, at the infinite horizon line where sky meets sea. Some bridges, I think, are worth burning if they only lead back to places where you're made to feel small. I'm sure, I tell him. Make the call. I descend the stone staircase toward a secluded courtyard garden I designed as a private sanctuary. Hidden from the main venue by a curved wall of pale cycladic stone, this intimate space was meant to be a retreat for guests needing respite from the celebration. How fitting that I should be its first visitor. The scent of lavender and rosemary calms my racing heart as I pause beside a fountain whose water ripples in soothing patterns. Lemon trees in terracotta pots provide dappled shade, while climbing jasmine covers an ancient stone wall with delicate white blooms. For the first time in years, I allow myself to breathe without worrying about pleasing anyone else. This is more beautiful than in the drawings, says a voice behind me. I turn to find Talia, Katerina's assistant, standing at the entrance to the courtyard. Despite her role in today's humiliation, her expression holds something like respect. Thank you, I reply cautiously. Did Katerina send you to find me? Talia hesitates, then shakes her head. No, she doesn't know I'm here. She takes a few steps forward, her slim figure silhouetted against the bright sunlight beyond the courtyard entrance. I wanted to say I'm sorry about what happened. The seating chart, it wasn't your mistake. I study her face, searching for signs of insincerity but finding none. I know. She fidgets with the sleeve of her silk blouse. Mrs. Papadopoulos made the changes yesterday. She specifically instructed me not to tell you. The confirmation of Katerina's deliberate slight stings, though it's hardly surprising. Why are you telling me this now? Because it wasn't right, Talia says simply. After a pause, she adds, and because in 15 years working for the Papadopoulos family, no one has ever treated me with as much respect as you have. Her admission catches me off guard. I'd always tried to be kind to Talia, acknowledging her expertise and including her in planning discussions rather than merely issuing orders as Katerina did. But I never expected my basic courtesy to make such an impression. Will you go back to the party? She asks. I shake my head. No, not this time. Talia nods as if she expected this answer. I should return before I'm missed. Good luck, Elena. She turns to leave, then pauses. For what it's worth, your work on this celebration was exceptional. Even Mrs. Papadopoulos said so, though not to your face, of course. After she disappears back up the stone staircase, I sink onto a low stone bench carved with a meander pattern, the traditional Greek key design that symbolizes infinity and unity. How ironic that I should find myself alone on this symbol of eternal connection. Seated on the cool stone, I replay every moment leading up to my departure, the laughter, the empty chair, the sting of rejection, and feel a strange sense of liberation taking root beneath the pain. I realize that while I orchestrated this celebration down to the smallest detail, I was still powerless to command basic respect. Now, I choose power over permission. From the main terrace above, I hear the distant sounds of celebration continuing, music from the string quartet I hired, sporadic laughter, the occasional clink of glasses during toasts. Life goes on without me, just as it always has in the Papadopoulos family. I lift my phone to silence mode and tuck it away, savoring the solitude and the distant crash of waves. The world beyond these garden walls feels temporarily suspended, as if holding its breath for what comes next. A small lizard darts across the sunlit stones, pausing to bask in a patch of warmth. I envy its simple existence, its freedom from the complex web of human expectations and disappointments. In this moment, I long for that kind of simplicity, a life measured by sunlight and shadow rather than approval and rejection. My mind drifts to memories of my life before Nikos, my small but successful event planning business in New York, my cramped apartment with a fire escape where I grew basil and tomatoes in the summer, my circle of friends who celebrated each other's victories without reservation or resentment. I had built something authentic there, something that was wholly mine. What would that Elena think of me now? Of the woman who has spent 3 years contorting herself to fit into a space too small and unwelcoming to ever truly accommodate her? A tear slides down my cheek, but it feels cleansing rather than defeated. Perhaps this humiliation was necessary, a catalyst forcing me to confront truths I've been avoiding. The most painful truth being that Nikos, for all his declarations of love, has never truly chosen me when it mattered. In our 3 years of marriage, he has consistently positioned himself as the bridge between his family and me, but in reality, he has always belonged firmly on their side of the divide. Whenever tensions arose, he advised patience, understanding, cultural sensitivity, all directed at me, never at them. The burden of adaptation has always been mine alone to bear. They come from a different world, he would say, as if that explained and excused everything. Give them time to adjust to you. 3 years seemed like ample time for adjustment. Yet today made it painfully clear that no amount of time would ever be enough. The issue was never about adjustment, it was about acceptance. And that was something the Papadopoulos family had no intention of granting. Above me, on the main terrace, the music changes to a traditional Greek dance tune. I imagine Katerina leading her guests in a circle, hands linked in celebration, while Nikos follows dutifully in her wake. The image no longer hurts as it once might have. Instead, it clarifies my position, always outside the circle, never truly part of the dance. The fountain's gentle splashing provides a soothing counterpoint to my thoughts. I designed this water feature specifically to mimic the sound of rain, a rare and precious occurrence on this arid island. Now its rhythmic pattern feels like a meditation, washing away years of accumulated slights and compromises. I close my eyes and listen to the water, to the distant sea, to the occasional rustle of lemon leaves in the breeze. In this garden of my own design, I find a moment of perfect peace, not because I've finally been accepted, but because I finally stopped seeking acceptance where it will never be given. A text message interrupts my reverie. I expect it to be from Nikos, but instead, it's from Macaulay's, all arranged as you requested. Awaiting your signal. I respond with a simple proceed, then replace my phone in my purse. The decision should feel momentous, even terrifying. Instead, it feels inevitable, like the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. For too long, I've allowed others to define my worth, to determine where and how I belong. Today, that ends. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the courtyard as I sit quietly, waiting. From this position, I can just glimpse the edge of the main terrace where caterers move efficiently between kitchen and dining area, where guests now mingle with drinks in hand as they await the birthday cake presentation, a towering creation of honey, almonds, and citrus that I commissioned from Athens's most celebrated pastry chef. I wonder briefly if anyone has noticed my continued absence, if Nikos has bothered to search for me beyond a cursory glance around the venue. Perhaps he assumes I've retreated to nurse my wounded pride, that I'll eventually return, chastened and compliant, ready to squeeze into whatever marginal space they deign to offer me. He doesn't know that the woman who will walk back into that celebration is fundamentally different from the one who walked out, that in this quiet garden, surrounded by herbs and water music. I have shed the last of my illusions about my place in the Papadopoulos family. And with those illusions gone, I am free to act without the constraints of false hope. The world beyond these garden walls feels temporarily suspended, as if holding its breath for what comes next. I, too, am holding my breath not in anxiety, but in anticipation. For the first time since I married Nikos, I feel fully awake, fully present, fully myself. I stand, smoothing the fabric of my dress, a silk creation in deep blue that I chose specifically to complement the Aegean setting. My hands no longer tremble. My breathing is steady. Whatever happens next, I am ready. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrates insistently. I glance at the screen to see Nikos's name flashing urgently. For a moment, I consider letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity wins out. I answer with a calm yes. Elena, what the hell is happening? Nikos's voice is tight with confusion and anger. In the background, I hear a cacophony of raised voices, Katerina's distinctive commanding tone rising above the others. There are men here saying we need to leave the venue. Immediately. Some nonsense about the reservation being cancelled. Is that so? I reply, my voice betraying nothing of the satisfaction blooming inside me. It's chaos, he continues, clearly too distracted to register my lack of surprise. Mother is furious. The staff won't serve the main course. Stavros is threatening to sue someone. They're saying the contract has been terminated and we're trespassing. He lowers his voice to an urgent whisper. I need you to come back and fix this. You know these people, you made the arrangements. Whatever misunderstanding, it's not a misunderstanding, Nikos. His momentary silence tells me he's finally hearing me, really hearing me. What do you mean? The men asking you to leave work for Aegean elite events. They're acting on the instructions of the venue's renter. That's impossible, he splutters. Mother paid for everything. I saw the contracts myself. I can picture him perfectly, standing apart from the group, one hand raking through his dark hair as he struggles to comprehend what's happening. In the 3 years I've known him, Nikos has never faced a situation that couldn't be resolved with money, charm, or his family name. Until now. You saw the contracts, I agree. But did you read them? Really read them? The reservation wasn't in Katerina's name. It was in mine. The ensuing silence feels like a physical presence between us. When I established my event planning business here, I continue, Macaulay's advised me to hold all venue contracts in my company's name, standard practice in the industry. Katerina transferred the funds to my business account, and I secured the reservation. Legally, I'm the client. And as the client, I have the right to terminate the event. I hear his sharp intake of breath, followed by a string of Greek expletives. You can't do this, he finally says. It's Mother's birthday. 60 guests are here, including business associates from Athens, cousins from Thessaloniki. Do you have any idea how this looks? I think I do, I reply evenly. It probably looks something like sitting at a table and realizing there's no place for you. For God's sake, Elena. His voice rises, drawing attention from others nearby. I hear Katerina demanding the phone. This is childish. So there was a mix-up with the seating. It wasn't a mix-up. Talia told me Katerina deliberately removed my place yesterday. Another silence, this one heavier than the last. When he speaks again, his voice has dropped to a guilty murmur. Mother has old-fashioned ideas. But causing a scene like this only proves her right about Americans being too emotional, too dramatic. And what about you, Nikos? What do you think? He sighs dramatically. I think you're overreacting to a minor slight. His dismissal ignites a fresh spark of indignation. A minor slight? For 3 years, I've endured minor slights from your family. I've been excluded from photos, conversations, decisions. I've been mocked for my accent, my background, my career. I've watched you laugh along with them instead of standing up for me. And today, when I was literally erased from the table at an event, you treated it as a joke. Elena, I'm not finished, I interrupt, surprised by my own boldness. What happened today wasn't minor, and it wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a pattern that you've enabled from the beginning. You've never once put me first, Nikos. Not once. In the background, Katerina's voice grows more strident. I hear her demanding to know what's happening, who I think I am to cause such embarrassment, whether Nikos has reminded me who pays for my comfortable lifestyle. Give me the phone, she commands, and to my complete lack of surprise, Nikos complies. Elena. Katerina's voice is cold and controlled. Whatever childish tantrum you're having needs to end now. You've made your point. Now be a grown woman and tell these men to let us continue my celebration. Hello, Katerina, I reply, matching her controlled tone. I understand there's some confusion about the venue. There is no confusion. Only a petty revenge for an oversight in the seating arrangement. I expected better from you. I laugh softly, the sound surprising both of us. That's just it, Katerina. You've never expected anything from me except failure and embarrassment. You've been waiting for me to prove I don't belong in your family from the moment Nikos brought me home. This is absurd. Let me finish. For 3 years, I've tried to earn your acceptance. I've learned Greek, adopted your customs, tolerated your criticisms. I helped build connections for your shipping business with American clients. I've been the perfect daughter-in-law in every way except one. I wasn't born into your world. Our world, she scoffs. You know nothing about our world. Our family has a legacy spanning generations. We have responsibilities, traditions, standards, and I've met every one of those standards. I cut in. I've exceeded them. The only standard I've failed to meet is being Greek by birth. And that's the one thing I can never change. She makes a dismissive sound. This dramatic display only confirms what I've always said about you. Now, I demand you tell these men to leave immediately and allow my guests to continue enjoying my birthday. Your birthday celebration in my venue, I remind her. That I planned, designed, and executed perfectly, only to be excluded from it. When Nikos' name flashing urgently. When I answer, his voice is laced with confusion and disbelief. They've been expelled from the venue. He stammers about a misunderstanding with the owner, unaware that I'm listening from the other end of the line. A quiet smile curves my lips as I respond with calm authority. I own this space, and I organized the event. The silence on the other side is heavy, charged with shock and dawning realization. I feel the scales tip as power shifts back into my hands, each word a reclamation of respect they withheld from me earlier. What do you mean you own this space? Katerina demands, her voice rising sharply. This villa belongs to the Dimitriou family. I know Alexis Dimitriou personally. The Demetrius sold this property last year, I inform her, to a real estate investment group that I partnered with 3 months ago. I own 30% of Villa Artemis. This time, the silence that follows is absolute. I can almost see Katerina's face drain of color as she processes this information. That's impossible, she finally manages. Nikos would have told me if you were involved in such a purchase. Nikos didn't know, I say simply. I used my inheritance from my grandmother, money that never touched our joint accounts. The investment was made through my event planning business. I hear muffled conversation as Katerina presumably relays this information to the others. Then Nikos is back on the line, his voice a mixture of disbelief and grudging admiration. You bought part of Villa Artemis without telling me? Why? Because I needed something that was mine, I answer honestly. Something separate from your family's wealth and influence. Something I built with my own resources. He is quiet for a moment. And now you're using it to humiliate my mother on her birthday. No, Nikos. I'm using it to show all of you that I won't be humiliated anymore. Their apologies come tumbling out, awkward and hollow. I let them fall into the air like confetti, beautiful in appearance but devoid of substance. Katerina offers to make room for me at the table. Nikos promises we'll talk about this later, as if my actions are merely a domestic disagreement to be resolved behind closed doors. Neither of them truly understands what has happened here, that something fundamental has shifted, that I've reclaimed my dignity in a way that can never be undone. The staff will help you gather your personal belongings, I say, my tone businesslike. The cars that brought your guests can return to take them back to their hotels. Elena, please, Nikos tries once more. We can fix this. Mother will apologize properly. Just let us finish the celebration. His plea might have moved me once. Now I merely check the time on my watch, a delicate timepiece his family gave me for our first anniversary, meant to replace my unsuitably casual American watch. How fitting that I should use their gift to time their exit. Goodbye, Nikos, I say firmly. I'll be at the Astra Suites if you need to reach me later. I've already checked in. I hang up before any promise of amends can be made, leaving them to grapple with the consequences of their own actions. Through the stone walls of the garden, I hear a renewed commotion from the main terrace, raised voices, the scrape of chairs, Katerina's distinctive commanding tone now tinged with defeat. I remain seated on the bench, waiting until the sounds of departure fade into silence. Only then do I allow myself a moment of pure, unadulterated satisfaction. Standing alone in the courtyard, I feel the last vestiges of hurt dissolve into clarity and strength. The garden is silent now, save for the gentle splashing of the fountain and the distant rhythm of waves breaking against the cliffs below. Villa Artemis, so recently filled with the Papadopoulos family and their distinguished guests, has returned to peaceful emptiness. I make my way up the stone staircase to the main terrace. The tables still bear evidence of the abruptly ended celebration, half-empty wine glasses, partially eaten appetizers, napkins discarded in haste. The setting sun casts long shadows across the abandoned party scene, bathing everything in golden light. Andreas approaches, his expression a mixture of concern and respect. The guests have all departed, Kyria Elena. What would you like us to do now? I survey the scene, considering. Please let the staff know they'll be paid for the full event as contracted. The food, I glance at the kitchen where I know the main courses wait, prepared but unserved. Donate it to the staff and their families. The wine can be stored for future events. He nods, then hesitates. And the cake? It just arrived from Athens as they were leaving. I smile at the irony. Bring it out. I'd like to see it. Minutes later, two kitchen staff carefully wheel out Katerina's birthday cake, a three-tiered masterpiece decorated with crystallized honey, edible gold leaf, and delicate sugar flowers matching the bougainvillea adorning the venue. Atop sits a handcrafted marzipan figure representing Katerina as a Greek goddess, complete with flowing robes and a small crown. It's beautiful, I murmur, admiring the pastry chef's artistry, despite everything. Please cut slices for everyone on staff. They deserve to enjoy it. As Andreas relays my instructions, I wander to the edge of the terrace where the view stretches endlessly toward the horizon. Santorini unfolds below me like a miniature world. White buildings stacked on black cliffs, blue-domed churches glowing in the evening light, fishing boats returning to harbor after a day at sea. This breathtaking landscape, which has witnessed thousands of years of human drama, now bears silent witness to my small act of rebellion. My phone buzzes again, Nikos, of course. I silence it without reading his message. Whatever he has to say can wait until tomorrow, when the raw edges of today's events have had time to settle. Instead, I text Macaulay's, "Thank you." Everything went as planned. His reply comes quickly. Glad to help. You okay? Am I? I consider the question carefully. The initial rush of vindication has faded, leaving behind something more nuanced, not quite happiness, but a profound sense of reclaimed dignity. Yes, I reply simply. I'm staying at Astor Suites tonight. Good choice. Call if you need anything. And Elena? You did the right thing. His reassurance warms me, though I don't need it anymore. For the first time in years, I'm certain of my own worth, independent of anyone else's validation. I reflect on how easily I allowed myself to be sidelined and vow never to grant that power to anyone again. This birthday celebration, once a symbol of my exclusion, has become the crucible in which I forge my self-worth. As twilight deepens, transforming the Aegean from sapphire to indigo, I gather my things to leave. At the entrance to Villa Artemis, I pause for one last look at the venue I co-own, at the space that should have hosted Katerina's perfect celebration, but instead became the stage for my emancipation. Will you be returning tomorrow, Kyria? Asks Andreas as he walks me to my waiting car. Yes, I decide in that moment. I'll be overseeing some changes to the property. It's time Villa Artemis reflected its new ownership. He smiles knowingly. The staff will be pleased. You've always treated us with respect. Such a simple thing, respect. The foundation of human dignity that Katerina and her family had systematically denied me. Its absence had hollowed out my marriage, undermined my confidence, made me a stranger in my own life. Yet here was this man, acknowledging what the Papadopoulos family could not. That respect is not a privilege to be earned through blood or birthright, but a basic courtesy owed to every person. The drive to Astor Suites takes only 15 minutes along winding island roads. Unlike Villa Artemis with its grand scale and ostentatious luxury, Astra is intimate and authentically Cycladic, a boutique hotel carved into the cliffside, offering privacy and spectacular views. The manager greets me personally, either unaware of or diplomatically ignoring the drama that has unfolded across the island. Your suite is ready, Mrs. Papadopoulos. The private terrace offers our finest view of the caldera. Will Mr. Papadopoulos be joining you later? The question gives me pause. Will he? Once his initial anger subsides, Nikos will come looking for me, not out of concern for my feelings, but to minimize the social damage, to present a united front to the gossips of their small, elite circle. He'll expect me to return to our normal pattern. His family offends, I forgive. Nothing fundamentally changes. No, I say with finality. I'll be staying alone. In my suite, a cave-style room with whitewashed walls, hand-woven textiles, and a private plunge pool, I change out of my formal dress into a simple linen shift. I remove my jewelry piece by piece, the diamond earrings from Nikos, the gold bracelet from Katerina, the sapphire ring that had belonged to Nikos's grandmother. I leave only my wedding band, though even that feels heavy with questions I'm not yet ready to answer. On the terrace, I watch darkness settle over Santorini. Lights twinkle on across the caldera, fishing boats return to harbor, and somewhere among those lights, the Papadopoulos family is undoubtedly gathered, analyzing today's events, constructing a narrative that preserves their dignity. Perhaps they've already decided I'm mentally unstable or calculating, or simply too American to understand proper Greek family dynamics. Let them think what they will. I no longer define myself through their perception. My phone has accumulated dozens of missed calls and messages, from Nikos, from Maria, even one from Talia. I scan them briefly. Nikos vacillates between anger and pleading. Maria expresses solidarity. Talia has attached a photo of Katerina's face when she learned I owned part of Villa Artemis. A petty satisfaction I allow myself to enjoy before deleting it. The last message is from my mother in Boston. Thinking of you today. Hope the party went well. Love you. I haven't told her about the tensions with Nikos's family, protecting her from worries she can do nothing about from across an ocean. But perhaps it's time for honesty there too. I order a simple dinner from room service, grilled sea bass, tomato salad, freshly baked bread, and eat it on my terrace under the stars. The food tastes better than anything I can remember, perhaps because it's the first meal in years I've enjoyed without measuring my every word and gesture against an impossible standard. Later, as I prepare for bed, someone knocks at my door. I freeze, assuming it's Nikos. But when I check through the peephole, I see Maria standing in the hallway, looking nervous but determined. I open the door cautiously. "Maria? How did you find me?" She gives a small, apologetic smile. Santorini is a small island. "May I come in?" I hesitate, then step aside. Of all Nikos's family, Maria has been the kindest, the most willing to include me. But tonight has taught me to be wary of even apparent allies. "Did Nikos send you?" I ask once we're seated in the small living area of my suite. She shakes her head. "No, he thinks I'm at my hotel. I came because I wanted to make sure you're all right." She pauses, then adds quietly, "and to tell you that I admire what you did today." I study her face, searching for signs of deception, but finding only sincerity. "You're not angry about the party ending?" Maria laughs softly. "Katerina's parties are always more obligation than pleasure. Besides, what happened to you is wrong. It has been wrong for 3 years." Her acknowledgement of the pattern brings unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you for seeing that." "Many of us see it," she admits. "We just lack the courage to challenge Katerina." "You didn't." We talk for an hour, really talk, without the constraints of family politics or cultural differences. For the first time, Maria tells me of her own struggles to meet Katerina's expectations, of the criticism she endured when she divorced her husband 5 years ago, of the subtle ways she too has been made to feel inadequate. "But your family," I point out, "Greek, born and raised." She smiles sadly. "Being family only means Katerina believes she owns you completely, not partially. The expectations are higher, not lower." When Maria leaves, she hugs me tightly. "Whatever you decide about Nikos, know that you've earned respect today. Not just mine." When I re-enter the venue later, guests turn to stare as I walk through with quiet confidence. My husband follows, humbled and tentative, and the family's expressions shift from triumph to sheepish respect. I don't seek confrontation, I simply take my place among them on my own terms. In that moment, I understand that belonging isn't given, it's earned through self-respect. And I resolve that from now on, I will never again sit anywhere but at the head of my own story. Alone in my suite, I step onto the terrace one last time before bed. The moon hangs low over the Aegean, casting a silver path across the dark water. Tomorrow will bring complications, conversations with Nikos, decisions about our marriage, inevitable confrontations with Katerina. The path forward isn't clear, except in one respect. I will never again surrender my dignity for the illusion of acceptance. Whatever comes next, I will face it standing tall, the architect of my own belonging. No more missing chairs, no more silent suffering, no more desperate attempts to fit where I was never meant to be. In losing my place at Katerina's table, I've found my place in the world, not as Nikos's American wife or Katerina's foreign daughter-in-law, but as Elena, complete and sufficient unto herself. I turn away from the moonlit view and close the terrace doors. Tomorrow is waiting, and for the first time in years, I'm ready to meet it on my own terms.